Welcome back to Across the Pond. I'm Ashley, your American host, and I have to be honest with you. I almost didn't make it to this recording today. Not because anything went wrong, just because I am absolutely exhausted, and my bed looked very convincing this morning.
And I'm William, joining you from London, where I can confirm I am well-rested, alert, and completely lying about both of those things.
I knew it. Okay, so today's episode, we are talking about sleep. Specifically, why so many people aren't getting enough of it, what that actually does to us, and why our relationship with sleep is so different depending on where you live and what culture you come from.
It's a topic that sounds simple on the surface. Sleep. We all do it, we all need it. But when you dig into it, it touches on psychology, economics, technology, and some genuinely interesting cultural differences between Britain and America.
Yes. And spoiler, Americans and British people have very different attitudes towards sleep deprivation. Like, the way people talk about being tired is really different.
Which we will get into. And as always, there's a good amount of vocabulary along the way. Words and expressions around health, habits, and well-being that are really useful for B1-B2 learners.
Okay, grab your coffee or your tea, and let's talk about sleep. This is Across the Pond, episode 10. So let me just ask the obvious question first. William, how much sleep do you actually get?
Honestly, somewhere between 6 and 7 hours on a weeknight, which I'm aware is below the recommended amount.
What's the recommended amount?
Most sleep researchers suggest 7 to 9 hours for adults, 7 being the realistic minimum for most people to function well, 9 being, for most working adults, something of a fantasy.
A fantasy. Okay, I really try to get 8 hours. Like, I am kind of serious about it. I have a bedtime. I'm 29 years old and I have a bedtime.
That is both admirable and faintly endearing.
Thank you, I think. But here's the thing. Even when I try to get 8 hours, I feel like there's always something in the way. A notification, a thought I can't switch off, just lying there staring at the ceiling.
Staring at the ceiling. That's a great image and a very common English expression for lying awake, unable to sleep. You might also hear, I couldn't switch off, meaning your brain wouldn't stop thinking. Or, I was tossing and turning all night, which means you kept moving in bed because you couldn't get comfortable or fall asleep.
Oh, tossing and turning, yes. I use that all the time. And then there's, I only got a few hours, or I barely slept.
There's also the very British, I had a terrible night, which is a fairly understated way of saying you slept very badly. We tend not to dramatize it.
Whereas in California, we absolutely dramatize it. I got 4 hours of sleep. I am dying.
Yes, I've noticed that American tiredness tends to be expressed at a slightly higher volume than the British equivalent.
We are a passionate people.
There's something I find genuinely interesting about how sleep deprivation, that's the state of not getting enough sleep, deprivation meaning a lack of something you need, how it's been treated as a status symbol in certain cultures.
Yes, this is such a real thing, especially in American work culture. Like, there's this idea that if you're busy, if you're grinding, if you're successful, you don't sleep much. Sleep is for people who aren't working hard enough.
There's a phrase for this mindset, hustle culture. The glorification of overwork, of always being productive, always being on. And within hustle culture, saying, I only slept 4 hours is almost a boast.
I'll sleep when I'm dead. That's like the motto.
Which is, medically speaking, not an entirely unreasonable timeline if you continue on that path.
William, that's dark.
Accurate, though. Sleep deprivation has been linked to serious long-term health consequences, increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, cognitive decline, It's not a minor inconvenience. It's a genuine health issue.
And I think American culture is slowly starting to wake up to that. No pun intended. There's been a real shift, especially in the last 10 years, toward taking sleep seriously. Sleep tracking apps, sleep podcasts, books about sleep.
Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep, was a significant moment in that conversation. It made sleep science genuinely mainstream, though some of his more extreme claims were later questioned by other researchers. The core message, that sleep matters more than we treat it, resonated widely.
Yeah. The phrase sleep hygiene has become really common now. It means the habits and practices that help you sleep well. Things like keeping a consistent bedtime, avoiding screens before bed, not having caffeine too late in the day.
Hygiene, in this context, doesn't mean cleanliness. It's borrowed from the medical sense of practices that maintain health. Sleep hygiene, mental hygiene. You'll see this usage in health writing in English.
So useful to know. I feel like sleep hygiene is one of those phrases that sounds fancy, but just means have a routine and stop looking at your phone at midnight.
Which, for many people, is easier said than done.
Okay, I want to talk about how different cultures approach sleep because I think this is really interesting. Like in some southern European countries, the afternoon nap is completely normal. It's built into the day.
The siesta, yes, particularly in Spain, though its practice has declined significantly in urban areas over recent decades. The idea is that after a large midday meal, in hot weather, a short rest makes physiological sense. Your body is digesting, temperatures are high, a brief sleep is practical.
And in Japan, there's a concept called inemuri, which roughly means sleeping while present, like napping in a meeting or on public transport. And it's not seen as lazy, it's actually seen as a sign that you've been working hard.
Which is a fascinating inversion of the Western professional norm, where falling asleep in a meeting would be considered extremely unprofessional.
Yeah, in the US, you would never live that down. Like, someone would bring it up at your retirement party.
In Britain, it might be slightly more forgivable, depending on how dull the meeting was. There's a quiet understanding.
I love that. What about napping generally? Is that something British people do?
It's somewhat culturally ambivalent, I'd say. There's a part of British culture that associates daytime sleep with either illness or idleness. Having a lie-in, staying in bed late in the morning, is accepted on weekends, almost expected, but a deliberate afternoon nap carries a faint whiff of self-indulgence.
A lie-in. I love that phrase. In America, we'd say sleeping in. Same idea, staying in bed past your usual wake-up time, usually on a Saturday when you have nothing urgent to do.
Yes, sleeping in is the American version. Having a lie-in is British. Both wonderfully guilt-inducing activities, apparently, despite being entirely reasonable.
Right? Why do we feel guilty for sleeping? That's a whole other episode.
I want to come back to something you mentioned earlier, the phone, because I think technology is one of the most significant factors in the modern sleep crisis, and it's worth examining why.
Yeah. So screens emit what's called blue light, which is a type of light that signals to your brain that it's daytime. When you're on your phone at 10 p.m., your brain gets confused about what time it is and delays the release of melatonin, the hormone that makes you feel sleepy.
Hormone, a chemical produced by the body that regulates various functions. Melatonin specifically controls your sleep-wake cycle, sometimes called your circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock that runs on roughly a 24-hour cycle.
And the thing is, it's not just the light, it's the content. Social media is specifically designed to keep you engaged. The scroll is endless, the notifications are designed to feel urgent, so even if you put the phone down, your brain is still buzzing.
The scroll is endless is a phrase that I think you'll appear in history books eventually.
Honestly. So what actually helps? Because I feel like everyone knows what they should do, and not everyone does it.
The evidence is fairly consistent. Consistent wake and sleep times, going to bed and getting up at roughly the same time every day, including weekends, is probably the single most impactful habit. It anchors the circadian rhythm.
And keeping the bedroom for sleep, not working in bed, not watching things in bed. Your brain learns to associate the bed with wakefulness if you use it for everything else.
There's also the underrated power of simply not catastrophizing about sleep. The anxiety of, I have to sleep, why am I not sleeping, tomorrow will be awful. This kind of thinking actively makes it harder to sleep. Catastrophizing means imagining the worst possible outcome and treating it as inevitable.
Oh, I am a world-class catastrophizer. 3 a.m. is my peak catastrophizing hour.
It is, for many people, a surprisingly popular time for that activity.
There's actually a phrase, the 3 a.m. thoughts, which is very understood in English. It means those anxious, spiraling thoughts you get in the middle of the night when everything feels worse than it actually is.
And in the cold light of day, another useful English phrase meaning when you're thinking clearly again, usually the next morning, most of those thoughts look very different.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's do our vocabulary recap, because this episode had some really good ones.
Sleep deprivation, the state of not getting enough sleep. Deprivation means being without something you need, a very useful word in health and well-being contexts.
Sleep tossing and turning, moving around in bed at night because you can't sleep. I was tossing and turning all night. Very common expression.
Sleep hygiene, the habits and routines that help you sleep well. Not about cleanliness, about consistency and good practice.
A lion, British English for staying in bed late in the morning. The American version is sleeping in. Same thing, different words, and both completely wonderful.
Circadian rhythm, your body's internal 24-hour clock that regulates sleep and wakefulness. You'll see this in any article about sleep science in English.
And catastrophizing, imagining the worst possible outcome and treating it as certain. Extremely common at 3 in the morning, apparently.
And in the cold light of day, when you're thinking clearly again after the heightened emotions of the night have passed.
Oh, that one I'm using forever. Okay, that is a wrap on episode 10 of Across the Pond. This one felt very relatable, honestly. I think everyone listening has had at least one sleepless night they could relate this to.
Sleep is one of those topics that is both deeply personal and completely universal. We all need it. Most of us struggle with it at some point. And it turns out how we think about it is shaped by where we come from more than we realize.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. It genuinely helps us keep going and reach more English learners around the world. And leave us a comment. How many hours of sleep do you get? And are you happy with it?
We are curious, and we promise not to judge, unless you claim to thrive on 4 hours, in which case we have questions.
So many questions. Okay, see you next time on Across the Pond. Bye, everyone.
Good night, or good morning, depending on when you're listening to this.